Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors with Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to my social media, my now on pause again columns at the Colorado Springs Independent, all the other podcasts we've done, my photography website, which I want to remind you all about if you're looking for gifts for this holiday season. I think you'll find some pretty nice artwork in there that you'd like, and and something special to hang up in the house or to give to somebody or something like that. So check out all that at hikingbob.com. And also you can help support the podcast at Patreon, patreon.com/hikingbob. And you can be rewarded depending on your level of support. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. Joining me today, and you haven't heard from him in a while, but he's back, is Wild Westendorf.
Hey everyone, it's Kevin Wild Westendorf here, and you can find me on social media, primarily Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf, and on my website, which is wildwestendorf.wordpress.com.
Well, Kevin, how you been? Everything been good?
Been good. Had a bit of a health scare over the weekend, which I'm sure we'll talk about that soon. But a few weeks ago was my birthday, so I'm 36 years old now.
Oh boy.
So I'm now closer to 40 than I was last year. So
next year you'll be even closer.
yeah, exactly. So,
well, happy birthday, Kevin. Sorry I missed it. I saw that a couple of days later. I don't check Facebook nearly as often as I should. But I hope you had a good birthday.
It was nice. It was nice to just be chill, relaxing. I had dinner with my mom and some friends and my goddaughter. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Great. So Kevin, today we're going to talk about a couple of little things. One thing I wanted to just mention to everybody is that we are going to be doing more podcasts in the next month and a half or so with groups that are part of the Give Pikes Peak campaign, which is underway right now. We already had one of those last week with Trails and Open Space Coalition. So you'll be hearing some of those. So you may not hear Kevin for a little while, but we will have him back. But we always endorse and ask that you support those groups that are in the Give Pikes Peak campaign, even if they're not all that you're looking for in the outdoors segment there, but there's lots of good groups in there. So we hope that you can support those guys. And also Colorado Gives Day is coming up. I think it's the first week in December. That's coming up. So if they're not in the Give Pikes Peak campaign, they might be in Colorado Gives. So this is the season for giving. So if you can do that, that'd be pretty darn nice. We would definitely appreciate that. Kevin, you had mentioned that you had a health scare over the weekend, and I don't know anything about this other than a brief text message you sent me last night, but it sounded like kind of scary, and you want to kind of link this into overall health and well-being and outdoor recreation. So I'm going to turn this over to you, especially because my voice sounds like garbage right now. Whatever. I sound worse than I feel. I'll say that. So I don't feel that terrible, but my voice sounds terrible. So Kevin, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I may ask you a couple questions, but I'm going to let you have the stage here and talk about this health scare you had over the weekend. And you're looking good, so I'm hoping everything turned out okay in the end.
Oh yeah. So for about a week and a half, my left arm has been very numb and tingling, and so I was finally like okay, I'm just gonna make an appointment. I'm not entirely sure why my arm is acting like this, because as far as I'm aware of, I did not injure the arm or hurt it in any way. The first day it started happening, I thought maybe I slept on it wrong. But then it just kept lasting, and it just kept getting worse. The pain was getting worse and worse. And then on a Saturday night, I had just gotten home, and I sat down at my desk, and I'm just unwinding. I think I was watching a bunch of TikToks actually. And then just out of nowhere, my heart just starts going crazy. It felt like it wanted to explode out of my chest. It felt like as if I had ran to the top of the incline without any brakes. I got really disoriented. I had to put my phone down because I just couldn't focus on anything. I was having a hard time standing up, and this lasted for what felt like 20 minutes, but it was probably maybe just a few minutes. And I was actually about to call 911 because I knew I was in no shape to drive. And then it started to calm down, and it slowed down a lot. It took a few more minutes until my heartbeat felt normal. I then immediately look up like left arm being numb, heart beating fast, and all the result is like this might be a sign of a heart attack or some other underlying issue. So I immediately called my mom, and at this point I'm feeling fine. So I immediately called my mom because when I was a kid, I had some heart problems and almost has surgery for it until the doctor decided I was too young for it, and they wanted to see me like physically grow up bigger and see if the problems with my heart would correct itself. So we did that, and I've been fine ever since then. But after I got off the phone with my mom, I immediately went to the ER because your heart's extremely important. So especially with what I do with hiking and such, because that requires a healthy heart. So I had to know like um if there's something else going on. And I get to the hospital, they do a bunch of tests and stuff, and they actually found out that my arm was unrelated to my heart. Thank goodness. It was actually I somehow damaged a nerve in my arm. So I'm on meds now to work with that, which I started this morning, and I'm already feeling much better in my arm, which is great because I was starting to lose sleep over it. And it turned out I have unusually high blood pressure, and I'll have to go in for more tests and such, but I might have stage 2 hypertension, which is just really high blood pressure. I had no idea. I don't know how long I've had this. I don't know why I have it, except my mom says that it runs in the family. And the doctor explained to me that sometimes untreated high blood pressure, there's times that it will cause your heart to panic. And so basically what I had was a heart panic, not a heart attack. So there was no damage or anything done, as far as I know. It just my heart kind of freaked out for a few minutes there, and then it regulated itself back to normal. But that was a big wake up call to me that I've been neglecting on checking up on my health, by doing a checkup every year. And because I could have caught this a lot sooner and then get on medication. My mom has been on high blood pressure meds for 15 plus years, and she said that she felt really weird for a while, and I have felt weird like this past year. And as soon as she got on the medication, she started feeling much better, just a lot more energy, just a bunch of stuff got a lot better for her. So I'm hoping that will answer some issues that I've had in the past year. And I just wanted to talk about this as I realize I'm still young, but I'm getting older, and it's more and more important as the years go by to go see a doctor every year, to get the checkups done, to know what steps forward you have to take to maintain your health too.
Well, Kevin, I'm glad everything turned out okay. I can tell you as an EMT that if you came to me and said, my left arm is numb and tingly and my heart's racing, I'd have gotten your butt in an ambulance into the hospital in a hurry.
Yeah.
Hooking you up to an EKG and starting an IV on you and giving you a couple of baby aspirin. I've been doing all kinds of stuff. But I'm glad that the two things were unrelated, which is kind of unusual. But well, I mean, not unusual that they're related, but it's unusual you had those symptoms all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because when you were explaining, I'm going, he's having a heart attack.
Yeah.
You were missing some of the signs I would look for as an EMT, sweatiness and short of breath and stuff like that. But still, that left arm, and the reason why that left arm is always a significant thing, because your major blood vessels go off to the left side when they come out of your heart, and so and your heart sits slightly to the left. People think it's over your left chest; it's actually the middle, but it sits slightly to the left. So the left arm seems to get affected before anything else does. So as an EMT, I'd have been like, holy cow, this guy's having a heart attack. We better hustle him to the hospital. I also have been thinking 36. I mean, he's almost an old man. He's 4 years away from being 40, um, but still, hey, I've seen heart attacks in people younger than you, in my years doing the stuff. Did your doctor say anything about, your fitness level, maybe helping you make this be less of a serious issue than it could have been otherwise? Do you have any
Uh,
discussion with him about that?
so this was the ER doctor, so we didn't really talk a whole lot, but he did do an EKG on me and said like oh yeah, it's very very clear you work out, and I was like yeah, I hike all the time, because he said my heart looks strong and healthy, which was really nice to hear that, because on my way to the ER and stuff, like I was freaking out. I mean I was in a panic because I was just like did I just have like a major episode of some kind, or so yeah, I'm just gonna be spending this week getting in touch with a PCP and just figure it out going forward.
Yeah, next time, do me a favor, call 911 so you don't have a heart attack on the way to the hospital or something.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you can call an ambulance. It's okay. I'm glad everything turned out. And for everybody, I've had health issues. Of course, I'm considerably older than Kevin is, and like I said before, few people get to be this age, but not true. But for everybody out there, even though, and most of the people listening to this are people who are out there hiking and doing stuff all the time, we're not immune to having health issues. I have high blood pressure, which is amazing considering that. And it's kind of weird because my body regulates it really well. Now I have medication to take very little, though, very small dosage. But one of the ways I'm sure your doctor at the ER could probably tell that you were pretty healthy was I'm guessing by the time you got in there, your heart rate was probably pretty low. And that's one of the things you look at is
Yeah.
when you're a pretty healthy person, your heart rate tends to be very low. Like marathoners are really big athletes who are, who do the long, like marathons and stuff like that. They have resting pulse rates like in the 40s, where somebody who's less healthy has ones in the 70s, 80s, or above when they're resting. Mine is in the low 50s typically. I'm glad that everything worked out. So, do you have a family doctor, a regular primary care doctor, or you got to have to get one?
I'm gonna have to, have to get one.
Okay. For everybody else, get a primary care doctor. My suggestion to you, this is Dr. Bob talking. I'm not a doctor, but get a primary care doctor. Go in almost any insurance you have, and even if you have like affordable health care like I do, included with that is periodic wellness checks. There's usually once a year, maybe twice a year. Get those done, if nothing else, to establish a baseline. So if someday you go into the hospital or you go into the doctor's office and you're above that baseline, they have something to go, hey, this isn't right, because you're usually, your pulse rate usually lower than this, your blood pressure is usually not this high, or your blood pressure is usually higher, now it's lower. That's a good sign. Get a primary care doctor, get checked. And plus, if you have a primary care doctor, and I've had this conversation with mine who knows me pretty well, is that when he sees me and he knows what I do and how many miles I hike, like you, Kevin, your doctor will get to know you. They can sit there and go, well, for you, this is normal. This injury might be normal because you hike a lot and you're also out there, so you probably recover from it faster. So instead of telling you to not do something, we're going to give you physical therapy instead, or tell you how to hike a little differently, something like that. So it's the advantage of having a good primary care physician, that can help you with that kind of stuff and gets to know you. So if you don't have a primary care physician, please get one. Everybody out there, listen to this, get one. And in this way, when you have an incident, you have somebody who's familiar with you and knows you and can take care of you and kind of know what direction you go. My doctor's great. And, when I go in and see him, it's like old home week, like, hey, how you doing? How many miles you hike? That kind of stuff. So he knows even before I went on this weight loss program and I was 20 pounds heavier, he said, you're 20 pounds heavier. You need to lose it, but you're also pretty healthy for somebody at your weight. So it's not hurting you like somebody who is 20 pounds too heavy and sat around on a chair, in the recliner all the time, eating potato chips and watching TV, 16 hours a day. So I was handling it better than anybody else. Not that I didn't need to lose the 20 pounds, and I did, and I feel even better yet. But, my body was able to tolerate it a little better. So it's good to have a primary care doctor. I'm glad you're doing better. Well, you know what, Kevin, keep us up to date when you get, if you want to, it's your private health and stuff. But when you get a primary care physician, you get set up, and I'd be interested to see what they tell you to do moving forward and, what kind
Oh
of,
yeah.
stuff, because it'd be interesting. I said, you're almost 30 years younger than me and lighter than me and as active as or more active than I am. So it's a little scary when somebody has, your age has a cardiac event, but I'm glad it wasn't anything permanent. There was no this they can see on an EKG. I'm sure they probably did a 12 lead on you. They had 12 things
Oh
wired up
yeah,
to you,
yeah.
a whole bunch of them wired up. So they can find if your heart actually has any damage with one of those. And I'm sure that if he thought there was something more serious, would have had you in for an ultrasound or a cardiac cath. So I'm glad that that is all turned out for you. Are you gonna do anything differently going forward? Or he tell you just to keep going about your life, or how are you gonna handle this moving forward?
Well, until I get a PCP, I'm just gonna look online about possible dietary changes, habits to change. And to see what I can do in the meantime.
Well, I'm glad everything is turning out for you. A little scary. I bet you were scared. I've been in
Oh yeah.
situations where I was a little scared, and I'm glad everything's okay. Speaking of health, and I posted this on Facebook, but my hiking buddy Cole the dog is injured again. He has injured his if people who've been listening to the podcast for a long time know that a year ago he tore the ACL, the dog they call it the CCL, in his right leg and had to have some very extensive and expensive and long-term rehab surgery on it. He started to develop a similar thing to his left leg. We think we caught it before he completely severed the CCL, but we think he has a tear. Our vet recommended, instead of having the surgery just yet, wait on the surgery, to get a special harness made for him. And these things are custom made. And it's a pretty complicated thing, but on his left leg, it wraps around the leg. Then there's a thing that goes up and over and hooks to his right leg, which kind of supports it. Then that also goes around a thing around his shoulders that supports it. It's like four pieces to this thing that we have to put on him every morning and take off every night. The idea is that the tear in the CCL develops scar tissue where the tear is and eventually reinforces that tear. And this brace supports it. And I know when he's walking without it, he's constantly lifting the leg because it hurts to put it down. When we put him on it, he'll walk for a long distance with that leg on the ground. So it does make a difference to him. So because of that, he's not doing very many hikes with me. I did about a 4 miler with him on that, and he was getting a little worn out, kind of cranky toward the end. So we're trying to find a happy medium with him, and he's going to be in this brace for 3 to 6 months. Is how long this thing takes to work. So it's going to be a long-term thing, but his life is mostly normal with it on. So people who've been watching and have seen some stuff posted about Cole not being in his normal stuff, that's why. And you won't see me hiking with them very much with it. Speaking of hiking, Kevin, I'm shooting for my 800 miles this year.
Nice, nice.
As of this recording, I have 140 miles to go in the last 50 days left in the year. So I'm going to have to hustle. But if I stick to around an average of 3 miles a day, I can get it done. But, I've had a couple injuries, which kept me off the trails for a week here and a week there. So I'm a little behind. But I think it's going to be maybe 800.001 miles by December 31st. But my goal is to have 800 miles by the end of the year. So I am shooting for that. And most people know I've been doing 800 miles a year for the last 5 years, I think. This will be the 6th year of that. Anyway, it's been a while. So I'm aiming for that. Kevin, it's winter time here. And as we know, we're going to get snow in there. We actually are looking at a possibility for more snow this year than we've had in the past. We've talked on the past about avalanches, and I've written columns about avalanche conditions in the mountains. And you need to be very careful when you're up there, especially if you go to a ski resort and you go out of bounds. You need to be very careful with that. I saw a movie the other night, and I highly recommend this movie to people. And it's about an avalanche that occurred in 1982 at a place called Alpine Meadows Ski Resort, which is in in the mountains above Lake Tahoe. And it is about this avalanche that came screaming down in 1982, wiped out the ski lodge at the bottom of the ski slopes. A number of people died. It was about the work they were doing. And remember, we're talking 1982 knowledge and technology here, but the things they did to control avalanches and search and rescue operations. But it's really, really well told. A really good movie. The movie is called Buried, the 1982 Alpine Meadows Avalanche. It is on Netflix right now, and I believe you can purchase the DVD on Amazon Prime. In any case, highly recommended. A really good, really, really good movie about avalanches. Good movie to watch this time of the year.
That area has got to be one of the most dangerous parts of the States because near there is where the Donner Party thing happened, and a part of why that was so bad was it was one of the worst winters in recorded history.
Well, if you watch this movie, this was actually like the second worst winters in recorded history, I think. And they have a timeline of the weather leading up to this avalanche. And I want to say it was like 150 inches of snow in a week. I mean, it was snowing and then snowing. And then when it got done snowing, it snowed some more. And then it snowed again. And they just kept snowing. They were firing howitzers into the mountain. They were dropping dynamite on the mountain to try to get these avalanches. And they said they were having no effect. Trying to, because they do that here. They either do dynamite or they actually have artillery. They fire into the mountains to cause the avalanches before anybody goes up there, so they don't happen while there's people on the ski slopes. They were doing all this stuff and it had like no effect. And then this avalanche came down, wiped out the lodge, killed people in the parking lot on the other side of the lodge. It just went right through the lodge. I mean, it's stunning. And it's 1982, so we're not talking a very old issue. So there's lots and lots of video of this event, not the actual avalanche, but prior to it when they're up there, and then afterwards, the search and rescue operations. Lots of still photography, but a really, really well done. I'll put a link in the show notes, but I just really well done. And I think with this winter, and they're talking about having more snow than we've had in the last couple of years. I just think it's important for people to see this. They do talk a lot about how avalanches occur and what to watch out for and how they, things they do to mitigate things. But, you never know what's going to happen here. And of course, in 1982, we've learned a lot since then, but still pretty scary stuff. And if you're borderline claustrophobic like I am, the idea of being caught underneath one of those, ugh. Boy, there was a couple of times I was kind of squirming watching that. Like, man, this is a little scary trying to watch all this. So, in any case, highly recommend watching that. If you have a chance, definitely go and watch that. And I think everybody will really enjoy it. I get nothing out of this. I don't get a click. I don't get a penny for every time somebody clicks on the link. So I just really think it's a good movie. And we've hardly ever talked about movies on here because half the time they're, nothing really special to talk about. But this is really, and it's a true story. It's all the people, the way it's done is it's all done documentary style. The only people who speak are the people who were there. It is completely done. The people who are there are the people who are talking, either on camera or narrating it while there's other video running. So it's really, really good stuff. So I just definitely recommend watching it. So in any case,
it's recreation. So it's done like a movie, except they intersperse it with the interviews and such.
There's very, very few recreations or anything like that. It's all interviews or, people who are there on screen talking about it with actual video and photography from the actual event with a couple of you can tell a few recreations, some computer generated stuff where they're showing aerial views of the, what the ski resort looked like prior to, what it looked like back then. Obviously the ski resort's still there. Alpine Meadows was still there. Obviously it's probably doesn't look the same as it did 1982. But for the most part, it's actual video, actual photographs, and it is all the actual people who were involved in it. So it's very much a first-person kind of thing. Really, really well done. And so I highly recommend watching it. Kevin, we have a couple minutes left. You and I talked a little while back about our plans for next year. Have you had any plans for any trips or anything for next year yet?
Not yet. Just the time of the year where I do really start to like, okay, where do I want to go? Do I have any specific goals in mind? Do I want to drive really far away to hike a giant mountain like I did last year with Mount
Of,
Whitney? Or
of
do I,
course of course you do.
yeah, yeah,
I can't be the only person to drive 6 hours to hike a 2 hour trail.
yeah. Which I almost did that towards the end of summer with a friend of mine. We had just enough time to drive out to the Uray area to do what would be about a 3 hour hike and then come back. And we, we planned it and stuff, and it's just like that's so much driving in one day. Like it's miserable.
Stay the night, do another hike in the morning, then drive back.
Yeah. I still want to go to Glacier. I want to go to Badlands. I want to go back to South Dakota because the last time I was out there, I was not into hiking or anything, but I remember it being beautiful out there.
Yeah, I was just out there. Yeah, the Black Hills. I was out there in
Yeah,
July. Do you remember? Yeah,
it's the
and
Black Hills. Yeah.
I lived there for a while. So back way
Oh,
long time ago.
and yeah, because you posted a photo of you when you were stationed out there for a Veterans Day.
Yep, out in the middle of South Dakota. When they at the time, and I'll just be real brief. When I was stationed out there, the Air Force had 150 nuclear missiles planted in the ground from the Missouri River in South Dakota all the way to the Montana border. Those nuclear missiles have since been all taken out, but there's still a bunch of them in Wyoming. You'll see them when you go up through northern Colorado and into Nebraska, and there's a bunch in Montana, and there's a bunch in North Dakota. But yeah, that picture you had of me was in the middle of winter, in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota, guarding a nuclear weapon site. Yeah, I hope you get to do that stuff, Kevin. If you're going to go to South Dakota, let me know. I'll give you some tips on some places
Oh,
in the
cool.
Black
Yeah.
Hills to go hiking. I didn't do much hiking there when I was there because I was actually, spending a day there before I went up to Teddy Roosevelt in National Park in North Dakota. But I did spend some time there in the 70s and 80s, so very long. At that time, Mount Rushmore only had two heads on it. Oh, I'm kidding. I made some plans for June.
Okay.
I'm going to North Carolina, the area around I'm sorry, not Nashville, Asheville and Brevard, which is right on the foot of the Great Smoky Mountains and the Pisgah National Forest. And I'm going out there on a photography related trip all by myself. I was going to go with a tour group, but they wanted a boatload of money. And I'm sure that the tour is worth it, but it was a lot more money than I wanted to spend to photograph waterfalls. There's 250 waterfalls in that area.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm gonna be there a week. Obviously, if I hit 20 of them, I'll be lucky in a week. So I'm going out there to do some photography and to do a little bit. I'm sure there'll be some hiking involved that I'll do in between the photography and stuff like that. But I've actually made all the reservations. I have airplane reservations, hotel reservations, rental car reservations, and I'm putting together a list of places I want to go. So that's my next trip. I am going down to the desert next week to celebrate Thanksgiving. Then at the end of the year, like I usually do, so I'll be hiking in the desert for a while, and I'll be back and forth. In any case, and I do want to get back out to Moab. I have not been to Moab in a few years, and I need to get back out there, do some hiking around arches and canyon lands, and go see Monument Valley again.
That's another place that is still on my list.
Monument Valley, or
Yeah.
you can actually do a little bit of hiking there. You can hike around one of the mittens, one of the rock formations. Looks like a
Oh,
mitten.
cool.
You can hike around one of those, but if nothing else, it is just I will drive 100 miles out of my way. If I'm within 100 miles of Monument Valley, I'll go there because it's just a stunning landscape and such an iconic West. I can't watch an old John Ford Western without just picturing, without seeing Monument Valley. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. I just love it. I've taken a crap load of pictures of there, and if I go again, I will take another crap load of pictures there. It's hard not to. It's such a beautiful place. So you're going to be solidifying your plans here toward the end of the year?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Well, next time we have you on, you got to tell us how far along you are in making those plans.
I sure will.
At with it. So, Kevin, anything else? Anything else you wanted to mention before we go?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. support the groups that are in the Give Pikes Peak campaign. So help those groups out that are in the campaign and support them. This is the time of year where a lot of them make the money, helps them do their thing for the rest of the year. And as we noted on the one I did with Trails and Open Space Coalition, the more you help them now, the less they have to pester you during the rest of the year. So get it out of the way now and send whatever you can, $5, $10, $50, whatever you can, and help these groups out and support them. And they do a lot of good work. And I will have some more of those groups on here in the next several weeks. So if you can do that, that'd be great. And check out my website if you're looking for some gift ideas. That'd be awesome. Kevin, I think with that, I think we'll say goodbye to everybody.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Kevin, and thanks. I'm glad everything turned out good for you and everything is gone well. So thank you for being on. Yeah, thank you for being on here. And everybody, we will talk to you again. Thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast.